The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. $1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. 3 times Della counted $1.87, and the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl. So Della did, which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. While the mistress of the home is gradually subsiding from the first stage to the second, take a look at the home, a furnished flat at $8 per week. It did not exactly beggar description, but it certainly had that word on the lookout for the mendicancy squad. In the vestibule below was a letter box into which no letter would go, and an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity, when its processor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, though they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D, but whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim, and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with the powdered rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a gray cat walking a gray fence in a gray backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she only had $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. She had been saving every penny she could for months, with this result. $20 a week doesn't go far. Expenses had been greater than she had calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for her Jim. Her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him. Something fine and rare and sterling, something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. There was a pier glass between the windows of the room. Perhaps you have seen a pier glass in an $8 flat. A very thin and very agile person may, by observing his reflection in a rapid sequence of longitudinal stripes, obtain a fairly accurate conception of his looks. Della, being slender, had mastered the art. Suddenly she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Now there were 2 possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs, in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Della's hair. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window some day to dry, just to depreciate her majesty's jewels and gifts. Had king. Questions. Number 1. Around which holiday does the story take place? A. Christmas. B. Thanksgiving. C. Halloween. And D. Easter. Number 2. What main problem does Della face? Option A. She doesn't know what to buy Jim for Christmas. B. She lost the money she was going to use to buy Jim's Christmas present. C. She only has $1.87 to buy a Christmas present for Jim. D. She cannot find the present she had bought Jim for Christmas. Question 3. Della's hair is extremely valuable. What evidence from the text supports this conclusion? Option A. Della's hair reached below her knees and made itself almost a garment for her. B. When Della's head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls, she looked wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. C. Della's hair grew awfully fast. D. Had the queen lived next door, Della would have hung her hair out the window to dry just to depreciate her majesty's jewels and gifts. Number 4. Before revealing her haircut to Jim, Della says, "Please, God, make him think I am still pretty." How does Jim feel about Della after he discovers her new haircut? A. He doesn't like Della's haircut, but he won't say so. B. He doesn't like Della any less than he had before. C. He thinks Della looks even better after the haircut. D. He thinks Della should have sold even more of her hair. Question 5. What is the theme of this story? A. The gifts appreciated most by the people receiving them are the most expensive gifts. B. A willingness to sacrifice for someone you love is the most valuable gift of all. C. You shouldn't compare the gift you receive from someone with the gift you gave that person. D. Exchanging gifts with someone is the best way to show your love for that person.